We have a major shift right now happening inside the White House, and Donald Trump's own voters are seemingly leaving him, exposing a major rift within the Republican Party as the president has failed to tackle the affordability crisis in the United States of America, as the president is going after Democratic lawmakers calling for their execution, and as the United States Coast Guard, under Donald Trump and Kristi Noem's leadership, had to reverse a policy that they were going to institute to remove swastikas, nooses, Confederate flags, and other hate symbols as hate symbols. And well, for many Trump voters, this is simply a step too far. Now, that may be surprising to some folks, but the average Trump voter is not necessarily in support of what we're seeing right now in Washington, D.C., and showing, especially as it relates to the affordability crisis. Now, today, while there is chaos inside the executive, Donald Trump is expected to meet with New York City Mayor elect Zohran Mamdani in the White House, a meeting that is expected to draw fireworks in what many dub as Trump Zelensky 2.0, just this time with the mayor elect. So we'll see what happens there. But make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe because this rift that is developing among Donald Trump's own base has the potential of exposing the Republican Party for years to come as it tries to figure out what's next after Donald Trump leaves office. Now, three-time Trump voters are very upset. They're upset because of the fact that essentially he has failed to tackle affordability and the affordability crisis in the United States of America.
President at the beginning of the year.
He did.
And the guy who moved into the White House said that he was going to fix it. Several times he said it would be easy.
Absolutely.
Has he fixed it?
Absolutely not. I'm definitely waiting for him to fix it.
Jones is a three-time Trump voter, but she says he has simply failed to keep his promise to lower the cost of living.
I'm very let down by that. Very, very let down because I feel like it's only gotten worse.
She feels very let down. She thinks that it's only gotten worse. And it comes on the same day that Donald Trump called on Democratic lawmakers to potentially be executed. Now, a lot of media companies out there have already moved on from that, have already just kind of brushed it under the rug. But I refuse to do that because I think this is a story that many people need to be talking about. And it actually has even led to calls for my arrest from folks around Donald Trump. Look at this. This is someone who has several thousand followers on TikTok. He is calling for the arrest of me for inciting political violence, simply talking about the fact that Donald Trump wants to arrest, indict, and potentially execute Democratic lawmakers. And we're now seeing what is essentially happening as a result of Donald Trump's calls. You have people around the White House going after people like me simply for reporting the news. Now, I did speak to Senator Alyssa Slotkin overnight, and a key point she made that I think a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that American intelligence agencies may be operating on United States soil in violation of the law, and it's something that extremely concerned her. So I want you to watch this moment from her. And before I let you go, I do want to ask you, because you previously served in the CIA and Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff, took issue with you taking part in the video specifically because he said, well, we're not just talking about the military now, we're talking about our intelligence communities. The CIA can't really operate or isn't allowed to operate on American soil. Have you been hearing from intelligence officers as well outside of the military?
I've definitely been hearing from intelligence officers. And I think the thing that really got my attention on the role of the intel community was the president kind of quietly in September put out an executive order asking the Department of Justice to come up with a list of domestic terrorist organizations, and then said, hey, use the full weight of the federal government, all the different departments and agencies to go after those domestic terrorist organizations. And the definition of domestic terrorist organization was very broad. You know, groups that disagree on the role of the family or on Christianity. I just, I have no evidence. I don't know the list. I haven't heard if they have a list, but I am concerned. I know firsthand what it means to go after a foreign terrorist organization, right? And to use the weight and the tools and the staff of the CIA to go after a foreign network. That's very different than going after a domestic terrorist organization. And so for me, it really pricked my ears up when they said, hey, the president wants you to come up with a domestic list and to use the full weight of the federal government to go after them.
See, that's an interesting moment. Remember that? Well, today we learned that the FBI, which is not an intelligence agency like the CIA, but is a law enforcement agency, today we learned that the FBI decided to spy on a Signal group chat of immigration rights activists who were organizing a court watch effort in New York City. New law enforcement records shared with The Guardian indicate that the FBI labeled immigration rights activists as, quote, anarchist, violent extremist actors. A joint situational information report from the FBI and the NYPD was dated back in August of 2025, quoted from the chat. An encrypted messaging app characterized the court watchers as extremist actors, essentially using the full weight of the federal government to go after Americans who have no connection to any extremism, who have done nothing wrong other than try to expose what the Trump administration was doing in the courts. And I think it's very interesting because this report from August was prepared by the Bureau's New York division. It doesn't actually make clear how the Bureau accessed the Signal group. The Signal platform is known for end-to-end encryption. It's the only way law enforcement can usually access these messages is if they're directly included or sent copies from a participant or have access to a member's unlocked phone. The FBI said that the information came from a, quote, sensitive source with excellent access and introduced the report as a warning about extremist actors targeting law enforcement and federal facilities. But here's the thing. These are just volunteers. They have never targeted law enforcement. They have never targeted federal facilities. And now they're being spied on and tracked in real time by this FBI. And it's something that it's a warning from Senator Slotkin that we all need to heed because it may no longer be just the FBI and domestic law enforcement. We may soon see CIA and other intelligence agencies doing the same, monitoring and tracking Americans on American soil, likely in violation of their oath of office. And it's something that Senator Slotkin is saying, well, you shouldn't do that. And it all comes as the Department of Homeland Security was under fire for essentially allowing the Coast Guard to take away swastikas, nooses, Confederate flags, and other hate symbols as hate symbols. They just essentially said they're no longer going to be labeled as hate symbols. But in reality, after mass outrage, after we exposed what was happening inside the United States Coast Guard, they backtracked. They changed their policies. They changed their policies overnight. Why? Because it wasn't just folks on the left who were upset. It was also folks around Donald Trump, folks who had voted for Donald Trump, people who had supported the president of the United States. They too were upset because this was just one step too far from them. So all of this kind of shows a White House that is really teetering on the edge of what's next, what's next. What's next for MAGA? What's next for this lame duck president? What's next those around the lame duck president? We're going to have to see, and it's something that I'm going to be covering very closely for you all. So spread the word. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe to support my work, but also to get this out to everyone you know. And I will see you soon with another update. I'm sure there'll be a ton of fireworks this afternoon, so stay tuned for more.